Basketball is like jazz. There's a jazz musician, a guy, I don't know what's his name. If you know basketball, you know who I mean. Kenny G. God, glad I remembered that. People know who he is.
Welcome to Kenny's G League, the only podcast all about the Rip City remix. In today's episode, we are going to take a look at the past two remix games that they've played, talk about a few of the things we're seeing throughout the season, compare those stats to what we're seeing in the Blazers, see if we see any crossover, and then we're going to have a very special chat with Jensen, who you might know as the remix director of ticketing. Really fun chat with John. I was really happy that he was able to come on the podcast. He's such a cool guy and just a basketball enjoyer, which of course makes it fun. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes, but first let's talk about the games that the remix played this week. The remix faced off against the Salt Lake City Stars. That is, of course, the related team to the Utah Jazz, also in Salt Lake City. The remix played the Stars twice this week, losing both games. In the first game on November 18, let's talk about who was kind of the leading scorers here. For the Stars, Isaiah Wong led the team with 28 points, 10 of 16 shooting, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 rebounds. He had a great weekend there. Max Abrams of the Stars, he had 24 points on 9 of 19 shooting. And Blazer familiar, Oscar Tshiebwe, who's on a two-way with the Jazz, he had 22 points and 20 rebounds. That's his second 2020 game of the season. He's having a great run in the G League right now. Leading the way for the remix was Alex Reese with 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. He was 5 of 11 from three-point land. Taze Moore, 23 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He's doing a little bit of everything this season and still having a number of highlight dunks as we know he did last year. He's having a great start to the season, I think. Bryce McGowan's another two-way player, 20 points, only 1 of 10 from 3. That's kind of going to be the name of the game this season so far is three-point shooting. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. The game was relatively close throughout before the Stars were able to put it away kind of towards the end of the third into the fourth quarter. It was 37-35 after 1 and 66-65 at the half. So the remix are keeping up in there. You know, they haven't won a game yet, but they are definitely competing. Like I said, the downfall so far has just been the shooting. They're shooting not terribly well from three-point land and not terribly well from the floor either. In this game, they were 35.7% shooting from the field and just 28.6% from the three-point line. So that's going to make it tough. That's our first game there. Let's go take a look at Game 2 against the Stars. Again, the remix lose 119-129. I was unable to watch this one. So let's go look at kind of the main things that I'm picking up here from the play-by-play and the box score. This was a back-and-forth game up until right about the 6-minute mark of the third quarter. It was 72-73, and then the Stars would go on a 7 to 18 run. And that's going to kind of be the closing stretch there that makes it difficult for the remix to come back. Still a close game, it looked like, up until they kind of went on that run. For the remix, we had James Bouknight with 21 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. We had Bryce McGowan with 21 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. Bringing it back with the three-point shooting a little bit this game, 3 of 5 from 3. Taze Moore, 14 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, kind of sneaking up close to a triple-double there. And Henry Drell, 17 points, 7 rebounds. Now, let's look at some of the trends that we're kind of seeing overall from the team this season. So one thing that we can point towards the Remix doing this season as a very concerted effort is 3-point attempts. They are second in the league in 3-point attempts a game right now at 47.5. Second in the league. Only above them is the Magic with 49.8 3-point attempts. Now the downside here, their 3-point percentage right now is all the way down at 23rd in the league at 31.1%. 31.1%. If you're shooting that many but only shooting 31%, that's tough. That's just tough. Let's see here. Now compare that to the Blazers. I was curious, where are the Blazers at in 3-point attempts this season? It doesn't really feel like they're second in the league, kind of matching the pace of the Remix. And sure enough, the Blazers are down at 25th in the league at 33.3%, 33.3 attempts a game. And the Blazers are hitting 33.4% of their 3-point attempts. So that's a pretty big difference. 33 attempts a game for the Blazers, 47 and a half for the Remix. That's interesting to me. I do remember several years ago, I guess now, where Chauncey Billups said that he kind of didn't like the trend in the NBA of just shooting tons and tons of three-pointers. And there is some study to back that up, that maybe we're reaching a point in the NBA where it's becoming less advantageous to only shoot threes, essentially, right? And that you may be better off searching for some now easier twos. But it is interesting that the Remix and the Blazers don't seem to share the theory of more 3-point attempts equals good. Let's look at some other things that we see from the Remix this year and how that compares to the rest of the league. Field goal attempts a game, the Remix are number 7 in the league at 91.8 a game. And points per game, the Remix are also 7th in the league at 116.3. So they're getting up and down the court. They're getting the shots up. The tough part, of course, is just hitting the shots. And I hate to make it so simple, but ball go in hoop, as Danny Meringue likes to say. That's going to make you look good, right? If the ball goes in the hoop. And we know that the Remix have some really capable shooters like Alex Reese and like, who am I thinking of here? Cam Tyson. They've got very capable shooters. We'll just see where that gets throughout the season. We're only 4 games in, after all. So those are just a couple trends 4 games in. I'll update those as we kind of go through the season, because I think those really broad overview things can be interesting throughout the season, but 4 games isn't a terribly big sample size. Now, of course, we've got the home opener coming up. That's on Friday, November 22nd, and then that's doubled with another game on Sunday, the 24th. I'll be at those games for sure. You should come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun to be able to see the team at home once again. Now let's get right into our conversation with John Jensen. Here we go. We're joined by John Jensen here, the director of ticketing for the Remix. Thanks for hopping on the podcast, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much. Big fan since day one of the podcast, so very happy to be on it. I'm honored. So I feel like I've made it.
You've made it somewhere. I don't know what
exactly.
this is, but you've made it here
to this podcast. So
yeah. Well, let's see here. I want to make sure that I did get that right. You're director of ticketing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Director of ticketing. So year 2, I started as the director of ticketing last year when we launched the team in July was when I started, and been here directing the tickets ever since. So it's been good.
Cool. Yeah. So what's that been like? Kind of like trying to build up fans in the arena and get people involved since it's a brand new team still. What's that been like?
Yeah. It's been really exciting. So my first I had been hired by the Remix, but it wasn't my first day yet, was at the launch party in June last year. And so, I was invited out by Hannah, our team president, to go to the launch. And I actually didn't know the name of the team. I tried very hard to say, hey, I really want to know the name of the team before I get the job, just in case it was like the, some name that I didn't want it to be or whatever the
Right.
case was, but or make it harder to sell. But I was very, very pumped when I saw both the name and then obviously the logo as well. I knew that that was something that was going to resonate really well. I think we all saw, the publicity afterwards of people being pretty overwhelmingly excited about it. And the other really cool thing was um, at the launch party, seeing people go down and secure their season tickets or put down deposits for half season tickets at the event, right? And it really got me excited and made me realize that we already have these core fans that want to be part of the Blazers organization. They probably already are part of Rip City in some way, but they're now sort of buying into being at the Child Center, going to Remix games, having that associated and having that be part of their plans. It was really, really cool. And so then when I started in July, we'd already done the launch and we had, a handful of season ticket holders already in our database. And so kind of talking to them about, what they're excited about, learning from them, what they're looking forward to and what we can expect. And then it just continued to grow from there. But that first summer was really cool to just kind of really learn who our fans are and who's coming out. And then to see them at the first game was really like the eye-opening moment.
Oh yeah, what was the first game like? That must have been I'm imagining anyway. I've worked in a couple places that I think are kind of similar in that at least it's a lot of like prepping for an event. It might be like a different thing, but I have to imagine it's got to be like kind of crazy to go, okay, this is like day one, real deal thing. And it's like, you're in an arena that like the team doesn't own, it's used by like so many different things. What was like the first game like?
Yeah, so a little bit of background up to that was I think you pretty much nailed it with planning an event. I kind of joke sometimes with Hannah, our team president, that like when we're planning on who's coming to the game, what we're doing, the events like that are going on within the game, it feels like the royal wedding, right? It's like, all right, well, who's sitting where, like who's doing what, like what's going on. So there was a lot of that, like logistical getting prepared,
Okay,
but
yeah.
also you're planning on an event that you're almost replicating for 24 times.
Yeah.
Because yes, the home opener is a big deal, but hey, we're right back the next night. We were there. It was a Friday night game and then a Saturday afternoon game right after. So there was not a lot of like, hey, let's take a deep breath and we'll recap in a week and see how it went. It was like, no, we need to make sure we do this the right way because we're going to end up doing it again the next day. And it's going to be for probably 1,200 to 1,500 different people
Yeah.
than the people that we just had at the game. So it was very much more like, what are we doing that we know can be replicable each game to really, make it a fun experience and something that we were really proud of. Believe it or not, our first kind of remix event was a fan fest that we hosted. We did a free fan fest where we invited people to Child Center. It was really good for us to kind of get a run of show of how do people get through the doors? How
Yeah.
does the scanning, work? We had a new technology we were using for scanning. Are all of us doing that have been working on building this all summer? What are we all doing at the games? Where are we standing? Like what is the accessibility of fans that sit here compared to sit there? So it was really cool. I think we did like dodgeball with the players or something, just to like reenact them being on the court. We did pictures, obviously,
Hmm.
with our fans, and I got to meet a lot of season ticket holders for the first time and put a face to a name for a lot of them. So that was really, really cool. And I think that was the first time that concessions were open and people were like, oh my gosh, we can get a hot dog, or what is this walking taco? And then
Yeah.
I think that that's almost what was born of what is this hand fruit? What
Right.
is this fruit that people are getting, right? And then
Right.
that kind of built into like at the first game, a lot of those same fans took what they saw at the fan fest and built off of it. They were like, wow, like what we enjoyed about the community around the fan fest, now there's a game around it too. And a lot of those same quirky things we saw at the fan fest kind of came out with the concessions, with getting the pictures on the court after the game, with just the whole experience of Child Center and what we had to offer. I think people really started to embrace it. And then that's when we really realized, okay, like these are things that we can do every game that make it a fun experience and memorable for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys are doing a really good job with that kind of stuff, like there was that one game last season where they did the market or
Yes.
yeah, and like I just showed up to that game with a couple friends of mine and I was like, "Oh my God, this thing is like packed." And people that one was kind of nuts.
I think the market's a good example of, us trying to put a spin on, having the opportunity of having a G League team right in Portland. We were kind of challenged early on by the G League of like, hey, you guys can get creative and, you know, different things you wanted to do. And we had theme jerseys and plans, but we were like, what's something that's really Portland-esque that we can put together? And a market at the game, utilizing the space that we had along the top of Chiles Center on the upper track was really an idea that we kind of ran with. I would say that I was more hesitant than others because my biggest fear was that one of two things was going to happen. Either we were going to do a great job promoting the market, which we did, and a bunch of people were going to come, which they did, but then the market was not up to people's expectation, which
Sure,
it
yeah.
ended up being.
Yeah.
Or what was going to happen was that we were going to get a ton of vendors and the market was going to be awesome, and then no one was going to go to it.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
it ended up that I was wrong on both accounts, and that's just my personality being worried because we ended up having a ton of fans at the game. They all enjoyed the market. We had our biggest attended game for students. We had a bunch of students just show up to the box office and go, "I'm here for the thrift market." And we're like, "You mean the basketball game?" And they're like, "What? No, I just want to go to the market." And I was like,
Right.
"Well, you have to buy a basketball ticket." And we sell them the ticket, and then they go to the market. But we had people like within our organization that we would see up in the market buying like things at the market and then going back down and watching the game. And we had staff even that maybe they have a side hustle and they were actually like had a booth in the market. And so it was just really a way to embrace like all of that Rip City vibe and all of that like Portland, North Portland sort of community
Yeah.
and make it a really cool event. And then we kind of shared it with the league, and the rest of the teams from like Charlotte and Iowa and Oklahoma City are like, "What do you mean you had a thrift market? Like,
Oh,
what does that
really?
even mean? Like, we would never do that." But for us, it was super successful, and I'm really excited because we're going to take that model, and so we're going to do a winter market in December, where it'll be very similar with like vendors and everything, but maybe more holiday themed too. And again, get your holiday shopping done before
Yeah.
at a remix game, right, or whatever the case is. And then if it works, maybe we can do multiple throughout the year. Like maybe it's something that becomes more of a staple of fans know that they can go to the game and get an extra benefit out of it. Of who doesn't like a good market at a game? So
Yeah,
nothing
that's
wrong with
cool.
that. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that was a fun one last year. I didn't realize it was going to be like a December thing this year, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, get it done early, and then maybe
Yeah.
do some others as the hope. But
Nice.
but shout out to the staff because there's a lot of work that
Yeah.
goes behind, like setting up the vendors. We had some really cool art and design around it, and like marketing did a great job. So again, that's why I was so nervous is it was out of the ticketing hands and
Yeah.
much more into marketing, and they did a great job. They nailed it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have to ask about the outrageous audio commercial.
Please,
Yeah.
yes.
So like
So
was
yeah,
that was that the was that like the idea all along to like team up with kind of like a local celebrity or so, or something like that?
that's a great question. So we have been talking about how are we promoting our events. This is last year. And
Yeah.
Reggie is our director of marketing. He grew up here, he went to high school here. He still lives in the area, obviously, and he had showed us the videos from Outrageous Audio, and he was like, "I would love for us to do this to be able to promote $5 youth tickets and hand fruit and photos with the players on the court and whatever other promotions, the thrift market or whatever other promotions we had going on,
Yeah.
and really be able to just like give those one-liner shout outs and get people excited." And the joke all along was like, John should just do it. Like,
Okay,
and I would
cool.
be like, $5 tickets. Like, who doesn't want them? Come get the tickets. Winter market, New Year's Eve. What? That's crazy. and kind of go with it. And it was going to be funny. I was going to be super nervous and probably awkward. And it was something that we kept building to. And he was like, hey, if you want to do it, we can do it. We are like, all right, let's table it for next year. Cause you get busy during the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's table it for next year. And then over the summer, I guess like at some point, Reggie just decided, let's just reach out to him and just like reach out to Blaine himself and be like, hey, we love your
cool.
videos. Like, would you be open to doing something like this? And he was thrilled. He's a big Blazers fan. He was somebody
really?
that like, he actually mentioned that he gets asked to do a lot of commercials for other businesses and he usually turns them down, but he really liked the idea of, the local team, the new team, part of the Blazers organization, really being able to like say fun, cool things. Like it wasn't like we were trying to sell printers. Nothing wrong with anyone that's trying to do that, but we were trying to do something, fun in the events we were trying to promote. And so he kind of ran with it. And, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not the star anymore. And then, they brought me back in and Reggie was like, no, we still love you to, be in the commercial and be on the phone and, have some fun with it. And it was a really good time. I think a lot of props go also to our content team. We have a really young staff, but because of that, we do some really fun, cool things that like they have this eye for that like me being older would be like, I wouldn't be able to think like that. Like they're really creative on like how to do things that are kind of outside the box. And like our videographer, I joke around and he's like a young Tarantino. He's just over there yelling crazy things and doing crazy things. But when it comes together, like it looks great. Like if you saw the shoot at Outrageous Audio, you'd be like, I don't know what these people are making. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then when you see it all sort of come together, you're like, oh wow, like that's really magical. So it was a lot of fun. It was cool. And the feedback was great from the fans. People that grew up here, people that remember those commercials, I think it was a real calling back to that, which sort of brings us to what we want to be as the brand of the Remix, which is like the nostalgia of Portland, the nostalgia of the Blazers, of basketball, of Child Center, of North Portland, right? The whole thing. We kind of call back to all of that and the music of it as well. The live music is so important to us. And so it kind of just was a perfect partnership in that way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it really does kind of feel like you guys like nailed the combination of those things, like I was at the practice facility recently and they were like wrapping up doing some photos with the players and stuff. And they like had little props and stuff that the players were, standing next to or whatever. And someone was like, oh yeah, that like prop that's like made of glitter and and stuff. Like I can't remember who it was, but it was someone I think on the video team. They're like, oh yeah, they made that in their garage yesterday. And like the commercial, they're like, I don't know what that's going to look like. And then you look at the photos from the players and like, oh, that looks awesome. But it was just like a idea that someone made in their garage and then you put it together. And by the end, it's super cool, but it's kind of a process that is like, well, what is this going to be by the time we put it together? And then sure enough, it's awesome,
No, I can't give enough props to our marketing team. They, they call themselves the kitchen because they're always cooking up really good ideas, and I kind of just let them go with it, and they've been great to work with. So I think that's I think it shows with, when we have these games and these events and we do these things, like it shows like, we bring out all of our personalities, which is cool. And it gets the players love it. They're like pumped for it. They're like, oh, this is cool. Like at media day, they're like, oh, this is cool. Like you guys are doing, some fun, cool things. And it gets them excited about being there, which is all part of it too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's sometimes, like if I'm talking to a friend or something that's like a casual sports fan, sometimes it's like difficult to convey like, no, it's like minor league sports, but like everyone cares about it and is like actually invested in it. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times casual people don't necessarily they don't like have a context for what minor league sports, especially minor league basketball, since it's like relatively new, is. But then it's like, no, like everybody down to like the video team is invested in this thing, and that's gonna like carry, have waves to the players,
Yeah, I think what's really cool about the G League, just in general, which I know you're a huge fan of, is how close you are to the big leagues,
Yeah,
both on the business and basketball side,
right.
compared to even I worked in minor league baseball for 10 years, so I'll compare it to that. And the
Yeah.
reason why is, and especially with the remix and the way we're situated, on the basketball side, the players practice at the practice facility. They're practicing with Shaden Sharp. They're practicing with Scoot Henderson. They're practicing with Jeremy Grant. And they they're they see Chauncey. They're at practice with Chauncey, and he's telling them what to do. And they're there. They see it. They see the basketball ops front office there, and they're every day is a chance for them to show why they can be at the NBA. And on the business side, it's like here exactly the same. I'm sitting in Moda Center right now. Like we're in the same office. I'm 5 feet away from the NBA or the Blazers ticket staff, right?
Hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
Blazers marketing team and the Blazers video team, and it kind of inspires you to like stand out and have fun
Right.
and but also like really it makes you more invested. In minor league baseball, like one thing is like you could be the AAA team for the you know uh, whatever San Diego Padres, and you're in Albuquerque, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like you're there. You're there if you're at spring training, but the business staff doesn't go to spring training, right? They're
Yeah.
in Albuquerque still. They don't feel like they're in San Diego or whatever. So I think that that's like um, a big difference between being at the minor league baseball level or like an NBA G League level right now. So
Yeah. And I mean, like, I got to imagine that hopefully ends up being like a big deal for a small market team like Portland, where it's like, if you're not in Los Angeles or whatever, it's like you got to take advantage of like every single thing at your disposal, whether that's like finding a role player like a Dwap Wreath or something where it's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, that like totally paid off like immediately. You have a guy on the remix and you go, oh, this guy's actually awesome. We found like an NBA role player from this process on like literally game one. You know what I mean? So I have to
Yeah.
imagine that like that is extra beneficial to small market teams where you can like really take advantage of both like the office stuff and just straight up to the players.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. I know Coach Moran, our coach from last year, he tells a really good story about how when he was the assistant with the Blazers, he would like, he'd be at practice and, he's, Dame is squaring off against CJ at practice. And then in the corner, it's like Anthony Simons and, oh, who's going to square up against them? Oh, I guess Coach Moran will. And Coach
Right.
Moran is like, just a normal, like not like he's athletic, but he's not a NBA shooting guard that really
Yeah.
can make Anthony Simons get that much better. And now it's like, no, we can go ahead and stick Ashton Hagans from last year on
Mm-hmm.
Scoot Henderson every day at practice and
Yeah.
really help Scoot get better that way. Or, we can, you know, whatever. But now this year, like it's like, oh no, we can have Duop, working with Klingon and
Yeah.
throw Taze and Reese on Klingon and really get him, reps with different types of skill sets of big men at practice. And I think it does build a camaraderie that way. And you get more players, I would imagine, through your organization, right? So like, having, the G League team here and having pretty much a new roster year over year
Mm-hmm.
gets more eyeballs for the front office side of things to be like, oh, I remember that player came through. I saw him on South Bay last year. Or, yeah, I saw him. Scottie Pippen Jr. was on the South Bay Lakers last
Mm-hmm.
year, and now he's on the Grizzlies, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure that the Memphis Hustle saw him down there in South Bay and said, hey, that could be somebody that we could utilize at our team. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that those are things that happen all the time.
Yeah. And then I guess to kind of wrap us up a little bit, what was maybe, do you have a favorite moment from last season? Whether it's like a moment on the court or not. And then what are you looking forward to this upcoming season? Both like on the court, of course,
Yes.
but then just like throughout the year in general.
So I'm gonna go with our New Year's Eve game last year, and I'm gonna go with it for basketball on court and off court.
Okay.
So it was my favorite game before the game even started because New Year's Eve, we're like, I don't know, people will probably have their New Year's Eve plans. The game's at 2 p.m., so maybe people will do things, but also by then you're kind of getting ready for your New Year's Eve night.
Yeah.
And I remember, opening up my computer before the game started and being like, oh, it looks like some people bought some tickets overnight. We might have some fans come to the game. This is great. And then all of a sudden, like we're getting ready to open the doors and the line is out to Child Center parking lot. And, people are waiting to get in and buy tickets. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like people are starting to show up. Like this is a lot of fun. And it was a lot of families coming out. It was talking to a lot of parents who were like, oh, this is a great thing to do before we go to our New Year's plans and a great opportunity to do something as a family on a holiday. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like we are now something that families are considering going to in Portland, which is like a really cool thing to be able to offer and be a part of. And then, the game starts, they're playing the Blue Coats, the Delaware Blue Coats. And so they are the Sixers G League team. I grew up in Philadelphia.
Cool.
My favorite player growing up was Allen Iverson. I one time yelled at my dad when he was coaching and the game was being filmed on the public broadcast station. And the PA announcer said, little AI is getting upset at his coach. And I was like, oh, it's just my dad. So that's why I wouldn't yell at a normal person like that. I'm only 12. But so I always loved AI. He's like my favorite player. But anyway, the Sixers just in general was like an organization that like I had watched. So I'm like, oh, this will be cool. I brought my wife out. Like she brought some friends and they were able to get pretty good seats down low. And we were watching the game and it was a great back and forth game. The Blue Coats, from a basketball perspective, they had Kenneth Lofton on their team, who was just like a G League baby Shaq out there.
Yeah, he really was.
He's big. He hits threes. He's just doing it all. And you're like, wow, like this guy is awesome. They had some other good flyers like Council and Dalton that are playing on the Sixers now. And it was just an unbelievable back and forth game. Higgins was, playing his all-star level defense and offense. AD was starting to knock down some shots. You're getting the Reese and Taze brothers, or I guess back then it was Reese and Condit. I don't know if Taze was.
Oh yeah, I can't remember when he joined the team. Yeah,
I think it was Condit and Reese, and they were like, they always remind me of like the Bash Brothers and Mighty Ducks. Yeah, like I'm just like, these guys are just gonna wreak havoc down low, and they're getting in Lofton's head and everything. And it also went to overtime, and I'll admit I'm not the biggest G League fan. I didn't realize that overtime was just the first to 7 points.
Yeah, it's wild.
So these guys are just going, and they're all jacking up threes.
Yeah.
And trying to be the game winner, and they're all missing threes back and forth. At one point, someone got fouled, and if they made the 2 shots, they would have won. But then they missed one of them. It was just like it was chaos. It was so fun. It was exciting for fans because it's something just unique for fans. Like they've never been to a live game where first to 7 wins in overtime. They've probably never seen, I don't know what the final score, they'll have the box score up, but they probably never seen a game where that many points are just being scored back and forth and they're sitting 100 level watching it happen. Like that's the other really unique thing about when you're at the G League is like you're in the action. Mm-hmm. And so when these guys are doing these crazy dunks and threes, and yes, there are not a lot of defense involved all the time, but it does make for some really exciting action for sure. Yeah. So it was so fun. And like, people were coming up to me like after, like that weren't even huge basketball fans. They were like, that was just a great experience. And I was just awesome. Like, it was really cool. So that was definitely my moment where I was like, boom, what a way to end. What a way to go into the new year, right? Like that's awesome. And so that's something that always sticks in my mind.
Very cool. Yeah. That Kenny Lofton game is also probably one of my favorite games from last year, just because that guy is insane. I think he's in China now, I want to say.
I think you are right. Yeah, and Ashton. That's
right.
Yeah. China this year. So
yeah. I see some of his highlights come up on Instagram every once in a while.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for hopping in and talking a little bit about the G League and basketball. Do you have anything that you'd like to point people to as we kind of end the episode here?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll give a little spiel for the upcoming season
Yeah,
and
let's
some of the
go. Let's do it.
exciting things that we have kind of going on. So we open up on Friday, November 22nd. Super pumped. We actually are doing an opening weekend, and I don't know if they're trying to create a rivalry in the G League, but they got the Valley Suns coming to town. So the new guys, like we were the new guys on the block, and now they're going to come in and try to be the new cool guys. And I think that it's a really good opportunity for our fans to be like, no, we're the new guys on the block, and
Yeah.
we are going to show you what it's like to play at Child Center on a Friday night. So we have a game Friday night, the 22nd. Then we play them again on the 24th, Sunday at 3 p.m. What's really cool about all of our games, free parking at Child Center. So like great opportunity with the weekends and the weekday games to be able to come out with friends or family. We do a free kids zone and $7 IPA beers. So nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun year this year. We also have South Bay coming to town. They always have some really good players. Who knows who'll be playing with them this year, but they always have fun players every year. And so they're coming in early December as well. And then like we had mentioned earlier, we have the Remix Market on December 7th. So we kick off the year pretty fun. So if you want to catch a good game in November and December, definitely check out the Remix. You can look at our website. It's just ripcityremix.com. We have all of our ticket info and everything.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for hopping in and chatting all about the Remix. I appreciate it. That'll do it for this episode of Kenny's G League. Like I've mentioned before, we're going weekly now, so please subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody you know. I would love to continue doing this throughout the season, and if you'd like to hit me up for whatever reason, give me some suggestions for maybe who should be on the show this year, or just different things you would like to see, you can feel free to email me at kennysgleague@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I will be back with another episode next week.